Today's podcast episode is brought to you by Houdinki Insurance, a new venture partnering both Houdinki and Chubb, two industry leaders in their respective fields. Houdinki Insurance is a refreshing new way to protect the timepieces we enjoy and collect. It's a true game changer in that it was designed by watch enthusiasts for watch enthusiasts, and it makes the process of insuring your watches as simple as possible by eliminating the typical pain points that can make insuring your timepieces difficult. Stay tuned later in the episode for more information, and be sure to check out insurance.houdinki.com or download the Houdinki app on iOS or Android. Hey everyone, welcome to the 10 and 2 podcast. I'm Kat.
And I'm Catlin.
And we're here every week talking watches, photography, adventure, and exploring the world of horology. Hey Catlin.
Yeah.
Happy International Women's Day.
I know. Happy International Women's Day to you too. We rarely, so usually we're a little proactive and we record these episodes like a few days in advance. Today we're recording the day of.
Yeah.
And if we had recorded this the other day, we would have totally forgotten that it would go out on International Women's Day. But today we can celebrate that. So very excited. I think, you know, the cool thing is lately in the watch industry, there's a really big movement going on to have more female voices and to have more female acceptance in the industry and both on the industry side and on the hobbyist side. And I'm all here for it. Yeah. I love that. Like, I feel like every day I see more and more women getting involved with like the Instagram side of things, and I'm finding all these new accounts, and I'm just absolutely blown away by it and can't express how excited that makes me.
Me too. I mean, it's been wonderful to see since we've kind of come onto the scene how many more women are on Instagram and in the forums and in the groups. And, you know, still not enough in my opinion. We need way more. We need more to even out the crowd a little bit. But it's exciting, and we've made so many more friendships from it. And I love seeing women support each other. This new movement, the Watch Femme movement, that has kind of started on Clubhouse, but now is an Instagram page, and I'm sure much more. But it's was created by women in the industry that are just have honestly been in the industry way longer than we have. And I don't even like to say that we're in the industry. We're not. We're just like two girls that just like to hang out.
To record a podcast, y'all.
Yeah, we basically are.
We got nothing.
But so many women that we both look up to and have been doing some amazing things the last few years. And check it out. If you're on Clubhouse, I know it's kind of exclusive right now to iPhone users. I have lots of invites. If you do have an iPhone,
Same.
like please reach out to me, send me a DM. I'd be happy to invite you on. It's a great listening platform also, just to kind of hang out and chat and to get into some really cool conversations. And again, just follow them on Instagram. If nothing else, they've got lots of great stuff. And, I've been, introduced to so many more accounts just through their Instagram page of a lot of women that are out there. So, and I'm excited to see what's to come, and just excited in general about more women in this hobby. And, it always makes me happy.
I agree.
I love the boys, though. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, we still love you boys. It's fine. Honestly, so first of all, I would thank all of you guys who are supportive of women in this hobby, right?
Yeah.
Kat and I, we're not stupid. We know that we would not have as big of a platform as we do without you guys, and we absolutely support that. We know there's tons of content out there. We love that you guys still support us, listen to us, and y'all have been some of our biggest supporters. All of our listeners have been. But thank you also for always helping other women feel welcoming. Like we see comments on other women's posts and things like that. And it's so great, to see everybody kind of band together and put sex aside of it. It doesn't matter if it's a female account, a male account. We love watches. We love the watch shots on Instagram. We love just kind of connecting with new people. So thank you to everybody who's just supportive of women in this hobby. And I mean, thank you to all the women who came before us. Like, there's been a long trail, a long trail paved by some amazing female voices in this hobby, and voices that have inspired Kat and I personally, voices that inspired this podcast. So we are so incredibly thankful to that.
Absolutely. And we are lucky enough to get to talk to a few more awesome ladies coming up. I know this week we've got a few, and we're really excited about those interviews and to get those out and just to introduce you guys to some more really awesome women that are in and around this hobby.
Most definitely.
But we've got an exciting episode today. Really, really fun one.
It was so excited. Before we get into the episode, though, Kat, what are you wearing today? I know it's early. So this is 10 and 2 after dark, as in dark was just like an hour and a half ago.
Yeah, it's early morning.
So it is early morning.
And I apologize for my voice because I've been kind of under the weather the last few days with this Tennessee allergies that have just like hit me like a brick wall. So I apologize if I sound like a frog. I will hopefully be back to normal very soon.
She won't. This is Kat's voice for like the next month, guys.
Yeah, I know.
It is what it is.
I know. I'll try to like drug myself with Benadryl next one, which will be a lot of fun.
Kat's gonna be passed out on the episode.
I know.
Sleeping and
it's so funny because like I can take Benadryl, and as long as I'm moving, as long as I'm doing something, I'm okay. Like, I'm a little drowsy, but I'm okay. But the minute that I sit down, I think I took it the other day, and me and Jonathan, like, we literally went 10 minutes up the road to go take some boxes to the dump. And in 2 minutes, I was just, like, passed completely out in the car. Yeah.
I can't. See, I've never had allergies. So, and like I feel for people who do have allergies though, because there are days, like the last couple of days, I've been a little irritated. So I know if it's bothering me, it's like really, like Tyler has terrible allergies. So I know like if I wake up and I feel a little groggy and stuffed up, I know he is absolutely miserable. But so like I've taken Benadryl maybe twice in my life. And like, girl, it's like taking straight NyQuil, like taking 3 doses of NyQuil. I will have never slept better than I sleep when I have Benadryl.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's a good night rest.
Or day's rest in the middle of the afternoon.
Yes. But back to what's on my wrist today. I'm actually wearing my Oris Big Crown Pointer Date today. I haven't worn this watch in a little while, and I was looking through the watch box this morning, or my watch drawer or whatever. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to wear this one. It's got a great, fantastic blue dial, one of my favorite blue dials that's out there. And this is just a great looking watch. It's one of the only watches I actually do wear on a strap for the most part. And I bought it on bracelet. So, yeah, I love the way it looks and feels. And it's one of my favorite, if not my favorite watch from Oris in general. I love the Oris Pointer Date line.
I agree.
What about you? What are you wearing today?
Well, for International Women's Day, I decided to take the bright ass pink strap off of my Grand Seiko. That's the official name for this pink strap. And I put it on my Speedmaster. And I love it. I'm like just smitten with this strap. I'll have to send you a wrist shot like once we're done recording. But
yeah, absolutely.
I'm absolutely obsessed with this combo. I feel like, and this is why I love strap monsters so much, because like a bright pink strap is a very specific color and not something that would work with a lot of different watches. But I love that I have 2 watches in my collection that I can just interchange straps, and I know that the straps are going to look good on them no matter what.
That's awesome. I like that. I can't wait to see a picture of that.
Yeah, it's so good. So good.
All right. So
are we getting into it?
Yeah, I'm really excited. We kind of thought about this idea like a while ago, but haven't really recorded anything on it just because we've had other topics and a lot has been going on kind of in the industry and with watch releases. But we wanted to do a kind of a, pick this, not that type of episode where we take some of the most iconic watches and then we give you guys an option that's A, under $1,000, and then B, we give you another option that's kind of in a similar price range or around it. Not really, doesn't have to be too close, but just to have another option if you're looking at, just say, the Submariner, and we'll kind of go down and we'll give you an option that's under $1,000, a more affordable option. And then we'll look at a watch that may be similar to that and maybe a better buy, to be honest with you, than the watch that everyone loves. So, yeah, I'm really excited to do this. This was actually a lot harder than I thought. And, it took me a while to, find some of these.
I'm super excited. And, of course, we're not going to do this like on each other's teams. We've decided that this is a competition. Yeah. And you guys get to pick who builds the best collection. So,
exactly.
Yeah. So, okay. So we have four watches that are some incredibly iconic watches. And we are at the beginning of each watch. We'll rock, paper, scissors, but use the honor system to see who gets to go first. Because if somebody steals your watch, we can't just have the same watch. Like, we have to pick a different one. So 4 categories, 4 watches in each category. We're going to be talking about 16 different watches today. And I am super stoked because I feel like I've built a really badass collection, Kat, and you're going down.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
I'm very confident in my collection. So, all right. I guess let's get started. Our first category is going to be the Submariner, right? I don't think there's any more watch that's more well known than the Submariner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One of the most iconic watches, has a great story behind the Submariner, a huge history. You know, whether you love or hate the brand and everything that's going on right now as far as availability, there's still no denying that it's one of the most sought after watches. Obviously, gray market prices will tell you that. So let's talk different options for Submariner. How do we want to rock, paper, scissors this? Are we just like rock 1, 2, 3, and then we just say what if we would pick rock, paper, scissors at the same time?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. we did not plan this very, very well, guys.
No, we didn't.
All right. So So let's go 1, 2, 3, scissors.
Paper.
Cat.
What did you say? I didn't hear
scissors. You did it in a delay. That's fine because it still benefited me. So I'll go with it.
No, it's fine. All right, go ahead. So what's your first pick? Or what's your pick for under $1,000?
For under $1,000, I really wanted to talk about like the Submariner being such a historic watch, and I wanted something that kind of shared that sort of history, but still a lot of the practicality of a dive watch. So my under $1,000 pick is going to be the Doxa Sub 200.
Nice.
The Shark Hunter. So that's the one that does have the black dial. It's $990 on bracelet. You can do it a little less on strap. The big thing is Doxa has a very strong dive watch history as well. So I felt like it really kind of connects in that sort of inspiration. And when you look at the Shark Hunter actually has a little bit of a fauxtina to it. It looks like a very vintage inspired diver, and that's what it's supposed to be. It's still water resistant to 200 meters. It's 42 millimeter case size. And even talking about the vintage aesthetic, you have a dome sapphire crystal. So like it just really ties in this whole look very well together. Super luminova. You've got the unidirectional bezel. Really kind of everything that you need in a dive watch. And to me, that's probably, if I was really looking for something that was Submariner inspired, but under $1,000, that would probably be my number one pick.
That's awesome. Yeah, that one definitely kind of came across. I didn't pick it as one of my picks, but like it definitely came across my screen for sure because that is such a great watch. And honestly, I didn't even realize Doxa had any options under $1,000. So that's really good to know.
Yeah, that's why I've been so tempted because I'm obsessed with the Sub 300 and I'm kind of obsessed with getting the Aqua Dial, but I'm still not sold on the Aqua Dial. And I've really been tempted just to pick up a 200 just to see if I like the color because is it
the exact same?
Yeah, it's the exact same. But the problem is that there are no Doxa dealers around here. I don't know where Doxa sells their watches. I just don't understand. But I don't get it. Dang it. But so I've been tempted to do that just to see. But the thing is if you're looking at the Sub 200 and the Sub 300, the Sub 200 doesn't have that iconic case design. Like if I get a Doxa that's going to be permanent in my collection, I want it to be the 300 or the 600 because it has that iconic, more turtle case design than the Sub 200. The Sub 2, and also if you like Doxa but you don't like that big bulky case, the 200 is a really great option. It's just a traditional case case. You don't have that bulkiness to it that you have with the 3 or the 600, but you still get the history. And the 200 is available in every single color, just like the other ones are. So you can definitely play around with some different color options too.
Nice. I love it. That's a great option.
So what's your budget Submariner?
So my budget Submariner, like you, I wanted something that had a little bit of history to it because the Submariner is so iconic. And I went with the Seiko SPB 147, which is their new kind of reinterpretation of the kind of 62 Moss case that they used to have, which was originally, I think, Seiko's like initial dive watch. And so there's a ton of history there with Seiko. It's also 200-meter water resistance. It's in a 40.5 millimeter case, so it's a perfect size too. Again, just an iconic design. I love these new reissues that they did last year. They come in on the strap, which is like the rubber strap. They come in right at $1,000. Now you can spend $200 and get the bracelet if you want. I actually have not seen these in the metal. I really, really want to because I love the look of these. I love that squared lug shape, and they're strap monsters, which the Submariner is a strap monster too. Like you can put that thing on anything, and it just looks great. The new one's 21 millimeter lugs, maybe not so much, but eventually you will be able to.
You have to buy all new straps, and then it will be a strap monster.
I feel so bad for those people too that like they bought it and they had zero. And to be fair, like I know we both have looked through a lot of strap companies, and I mean, almost everyone is making a 21 millimeter strap. Right. They may not have like all the same options, but there's certainly plenty to choose from. But going back to this watch, I just, you can look at the kind of the gilt dial or the blue or even the gray. I would personally go gray. I love the gray dial of this, and it's just a fantastic looking diver. Again, it's so iconic. Seiko, believe it or not, is just like, it's one of the original like dive watches, and just, it was, maybe not the same kind of quality level as a Submariner, obviously, but the bang for buck that you get in $1,000 watch like this is pretty great. The only like thing I would worry about is, and I haven't heard this from anyone, is if this watch has like the bezel misalignment issue, because I would be really upset spending $1,000 and like still having that issue. From the photos I've seen, I haven't been able to tell, but I don't know. If you have this watch, please DM me and let me know, because I would really, really be interested to hear if it does have that issue with it as well. But again, just a fantastic diver, and so iconic. But hey, I want to ask you, what was your backup option?
Oh, we're going there.
Yeah, just to say it.
Okay, so my backup was going to be the Christopher Ward Trident Pro 600.
Nice. That's another great option too.
Yeah, I feel like they offer a huge bang for their buck. Again, it's right under $1,000. You can get tons of different dial options. What about yours? What was your budget plan B?
My plan B was the Zodiac Super Seawolf, which again, just another kind of iconic diver. Yeah, we had some good options there. I feel like there's so many dive watch options. Like the next categories are going to be a little harder, but there was plenty of options, especially in the under $1,000 range, for a really great looking diver. And so moving on to the next one, which is going to be our similar option to the Submariner, not necessarily a budget friendly option. And I'll go ahead and let you go first since you draw first on this one. And so what's your similar alternative to a Submariner?
Again, I want to
also, obviously a sub is like hard to get right now, so this might be actually something you might be looking at.
I don't feel like it would be easier to get necessarily. I feel like I really wanted to tie in this idea of historic and iconic when it came to the Submariner. To me, when we're looking at dive watches, my heart automatically will go to the Blancpain 50 Fathoms. It's one of the older dive watches. It was originally created in 1953, and it was designed as like one of the first true like modern divers. They have a huge history, very much so like the Submariner and Rolex, huge history and tradition of working like alongside divers and scientists and photographers. And very similarly to the Submariner, the 50 Fathoms hasn't changed much over the years. And that's what I really like. Spending less than $1,000 on a watch, I'm okay with it looking a little bit dated, right? Like it can look like I bought it in 2021. Yeah, that's where we are. Sorry, I forgot for a second. It's Monday, y'all. It can look a little dated. I'm not going to worry about that, but when I'm spending over, a few $1,000s on a watch. And the Blancpain, they have models that range starting, it's over 10,000, which realistically, if you're looking for a sub and you're not wanting to wait, 2 years or a year, you're going to be spending that anyways. And I like that even under the 50 Fathoms collection, there's so many options to choose from. Like, I love the big date. And usually I'm not a fan of a big date, but I think that it's really sexy. It's really clean on this watch. I love that Blancpain uses the sapphire bezels. Like, if you have not seen this in person before, it is incredible, the sapphire dive bezels that they use.
Would you feel scared with that?
As far as just
banging the watch? Because the bezel takes a lot of times, it takes a lot of the brunt of forces, just when you hit your watch on your desk or through a doorway.
Yeah, I don't think that I would be scared necessarily. I feel like the sapphire should last just as much as the ceramic does, realistically.
Yeah,
I wouldn't think true. Because I do, I hit the hell out of my ceramic bezels and I hit the hell out of my sapphire crystals, honestly.
Catelyn hits the hell out of all.
I just beat the hell out of all my watches, y'all. They're very abused. It's awful. Bless their little hearts. But no, I don't feel like I would. Now, given also I'm not in a position where I plan on spending this much money on a watch, and maybe if I saved up money for a little while, and I decided that I did want to splurge and buy a really big expensive watch, then I probably would be. But I would be that way regardless, just because it's me spending a lot. It's me spending a car, realistically, but on a watch instead. So, but I love it. I think, again, it's just one of those iconic dive watches, and to me, holds a lot of similarity to the Submariner. But I like that it has a totally different style. I think it's easy to, people knock a lot of different watch brands, right? Say, oh, this looks like this. Everything apparently looks like a freaking Rolex in some way, shape, or form. And I always say, you can only reinvent the wheel so much. And there is quite a bit of truth in that. But I think you can still do something unique in yours. And I think that Blancpain does that incredibly well and makes dive watches that are specifically uniquely theirs. I can spot it from across the room and I know instantly that it's a Blancpain.
I completely agree. That's a really great option. I hadn't even thought about that one.
All right. So what is your not so budget friendly alternative to the Submariner?
So, mine is not really budget friendly, but it is cheaper than a Submariner. And I went with the Tudor Black Bay 58. And the reason is I've, obviously Tudor is a sister brand to Rolex, so you have a lot of similarities there. Tudor also has great history with it as well, and especially in their dive watches and the snowflakes and things like that. I've worn the Tudor Black Bay 58. I've worn vintage Submariners, and it really does feel like a vintage sub on the wrist. It doesn't necessarily feel like the new ceramic subs, but if you like that smaller dive watch, the kind of 39, 40 millimeter case, I don't think you can go wrong. And it's so simple. It's so clean. It's one of just the cleanest watches out there. I love the new Black Bay 58s. I love the Black Bay line in general. I've had several. And whether you go blue or whether you go the gilt dial as well, I think it's just a classic dive watch. And, it's got the Tudor in-house movement inside. So you've got that as well. They're just, I don't know. It's just the sub is just kind of like a boring dive watch. There's nothing super fancy or special about it. I feel the way about the Tudor Black Bay too. It's boring, but it's boring in a good way. It's it just goes with everything. It never doesn't look good. It looks good on just about everybody. And, I consider that the same way with the Submariner. So I would pick this, and I was really close to picking the Seamaster because I own the Seamaster, and I think it's just a fantastic alternative to the Submariner. But it doesn't feel like a Submariner on the wrist. It doesn't have any similarities. It's a completely different ballgame with Omega. And that's a good thing because, they're you were just talking about watches that are, compared to Rolex. Well, Omega's not, because it doesn't look anything like a sub at all. So they have their own DNA, which is great. And I still think that's a fantastic watch. But if you're looking for something that kind of gives you those sub vibes, I would definitely look at the Black Bay 58. I think they're a lot easier to get nowadays. I know for a while they were, kind of, you had to be on a list. But I'm seeing more and more people pick these up pretty easily, even going in same day and picking one up, which is amazing. So that would be my alternative.
No, Actually, I think that's a really great choice. I hadn't even thought about considering the Black Bay. The Seamaster was my plan B in case, you randomly wanted the Blancpain.
But and the 58 also comes in like $3,700 on bracelet, so it's quite a bit more affordable.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that it shares that kind of design much like the Submariner does, where it's simple. There's nothing fancy to it. There's not a lot going on. You have to really appreciate watches to really start looking at the little details that make it an absolutely beautiful watch. But to anybody else, they'll just see it and they'll just think of it as, just another dive watch. Okay, so my plan B was the Seamaster, the Diver 300. What was yours?
That same. Yeah.
Same. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. I also had as like a third option the Manta Ocean King, which is also kind of a budget, like right around $2,000. Huge Manta fan here. There's no question about it. I talk about them all the time. Having owned the Ocean King, it absolutely feels on the wrist like a Submariner, like totally does. You got a quick adjust clasp. I mean, just huge bang for buck, just a fantastic alternative, and one that I almost would even rank higher on my list as like far as what I like to wear, better than the Black Bay 58. But that's just me personally. You've got a ceramic bezel, all the good stuff with that watch. Of course, you don't have an in-house movement because they are a smaller brand. But that would have been kind of my third pick if you had obviously picked the Omega too.
Nice. No, I agree. I feel like it fits incredibly well on the wrist. I like the wrist presence that has. And it feels very much so like a Submariner. Like there's a bulkiness, there's a heaviness to it that you expect out of a Submariner. The bezel action is absolutely phenomenal on that watch. And it definitely, it gives me very Submariner vibes. They knocked that watch out of the park for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Next category. Speedmaster. We just put Speedy, but I think we both like assumed we were talking about the Speedmaster Professional, the Moonwatch, basically.
For sure.
Okay. I was like, I'm like looking at the notes. I'm like, well, this could have been interesting, but all right. So let's try to rock, paper, scissors this again and see who gets to go first. All right.
Okay.
So we'll 1, 2, 3, and then we'll throw out rock, paper, or scissors. Okay.
Okay.
All right. 1, 2, 3, rock. All right.
I said rock.
All right.
All right.
1, 2, 3.
Paper.
We might have to find a coin. All right. 1, 2, 3. Paper. Cat. I gotta go to work at some point. We're just gonna be sitting here for 20 minutes playing rock, paper, scissors.
Okay, one more time. And if we can't, then I don't know what the fuck we're gonna do. We'll just pick one of us.
All right. 1, 2, 3, rock.
Paper. Okay. Cool.
Paper covers rock, right?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
I have to remind myself.
All right. So, Kat, what is your budget Speedmaster?
This one was actually really tough because, we're trying to keep these budget options under $1,000, and there is not a ton of options for chronographs under that amount. And I really wanted to stick with the chronograph just because we're looking at the Speedmaster. If you're looking for an alternative, you're not going to suffice with anything else but a true chronograph. So I have two really great options, and I'm like kind of going back and forth in my head which one I want to pick because I have a feeling you're going to have one of them, and I hate to
you're not going to have mine. I promise.
Okay.
I don't even have a plan B. That's how confident I am that you're not going to take mine.
Okay. I have which one should I go with? All right. So I'm just going to go with my first pick, which is the Bulova Lunar Pilot chronograph.
Yeah.
Comes in at $750. I think this is just a great alternative to the Speedmaster. A lot of people in the watch community know about this watch. It was actually used as a backup for the onboard timers for critical re-entry. So it was used by NASA. I think this was one of the only privately owned watches that actually went into space, if I remember right. Correct me if I'm wrong, you guys. I'm kind of just going off of memory here. I think it was also used in the Apollo 15 mission, but they did partner with NASA. They've been on 46 missions. So this watch has a lot of NASA history. Obviously, it's not a Speedmaster, but you have some of the same functionality. You have a 60-second subdial, you have an hour, and I think it's a 30-minute. Sorry, the hands were like covering it up so I couldn't see. But again, lots of history here. Great looking watch and just a great alternative. Now, it's $750 on bracelet, 45 millimeters. So it is really big, 13.5 millimeters thick. But again, you're going to get a thicker, chronograph, because not a lot of these budget options, they can't make them really thin like some of the big boys can. So that's just kind of the negative about buying a budget chronograph, unless you go with a quartz, and then you can have a really thin watch. But yeah, so that's my pick. I think it's a great option for those that want the look of a Speedy. From far away, it kind of gives you those vibes, and it's its own watch, it's its own history, and I think it's really cool, and it's one of my favorites from Bulova as a big brand. But yeah. I'm really interested to hear yours now, since you were so confident in your pick.
Before we get to mine, do you want random watch space nerdery about Bulova?
Yes. Okay. Let's hear it.
So, Bulova used to be an American-owned company, and at one point during the space program missions, there was a act of legislature called the Buy American Act, which stated that if the government was utilizing anything, any sort of tool, anything like that, if there was an American option that was equivalent in like durability and as far as like performance, then the government had to buy the American option and not anybody else's. So Bulova threw a hissy fit, of course, about the whole space thing, because they're an American watch brand. I like that I said hissy fit. I don't think I've said that on the podcast yet. So you're welcome, y'all. So Bulova threw a fit. They petitioned NASA heavily to become the moon watch, because obviously like Omega had been doing this for quite some time. So Omega had to actually make certain components in the United States to be able to be purchased by NASA under this legislature, so that Bulova couldn't be the official moonwatch.
Very, very cool.
Random things.
I love all your NASA nerdery. I love it so much.
Okay, you're gonna laugh, I feel like, about my budget pick.
Why?
But just hear me out, all right? Hear me out. It's a world timer, all right? It has a countdown. It's got alarms. It's a calendar. It's a chronograph. And for all you Speedmaster water-resistant haters, it's 100-meter water resistance.
Is it a G-Shock?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I give to you the Casio F91 World Time. This watch comes in well under $1,000. You can usually find it for under $50. If you go to Walmart, I'm pretty sure you could find it for $25. But this watch is so cool. And I don't know why I've never just bought one, because I feel like, first of all, they look cool. And I see photographs of them on Instagram all the time. And I think that they're just kind of one of those fun watches to kind of get into the hobby with. It gives you the chronograph functionality of the Speedmaster. I feel like this is a watch that's meant to be worn in space. It just has so much durability, things like that. Obviously, Casio is a company that's been around for a long time, so they have a lot of history. Whether you love or hate quartz watches, it is what it is. I think that they do have a place, especially in certain aspects. I think this is a very, very cool watch. I love that it has a world time complication on it. I just think it's cool, and I think it would be a great alternative. It's, black and steel, so it kind of has like that stainless steel vibe to it. I like the look of the bracelet. I like the look of the pushers. I just think it's something different and cool. And I knew you weren't going to pick it. And I knew like the Bulova was, and I'm not throwing shade, but the Bulova was like an easy one, right? Like it was like the low hanging fruit. So I wanted to do something really different. And now a word from today's sponsor. Houdinki, the preeminent resource for all things watches, has recently announced a new venture, Honiki Insurance. Created in partnership with Chubb, the world's premier insurer of valuable collections, Houdinki Insurance is a game changer in how you protect the watches you love. Signing up takes just a few minutes, and in most cases, you can instantly protect your watches with comprehensive insurance backed by two of the most trusted names in their industries. In most cases, you won't need independent appraisals or sales receipts, and you won't even have to speak with an agent to get your quote. The ease in which you can apply for Houdinki Insurance and get coverage makes insuring traditionally difficult timepieces, such as vintage watches, better now than ever. Not to mention the added peace of mind that comes with the appreciation protection, guaranteeing up to 150% of your watch's value up to the policy limit, ensuring fair value during an ever-changing watch market. Houdinki Insurance is available to U.S. residents in all 50 states. Visit insurance.houdinki.com or download the Houdinki app for iOS or Android to learn more and sign up today.
Very, very good. I did have like a really cool, so like my backup option was the Yema Rallygraph Mecha Quartz, and it comes in at $329. The bezel on this one does remind me a lot of the Speedy bezel. It doesn't really look like that on the case or on the dial. I'm sorry. It has its own look. The Yema actually has a lot of history. The company was founded in 1948, so they've been around for a little while. Lots of history on the racetrack. So, Mario Andretti wore this watch in the Indy 500. There's a 39 millimeter case. Again, lots of just vintage style with this watch, kind of a reissue of the original. And, you've got a mecha quartz movement, so it's something you don't really have to worry too much about. It's not as finicky as some of the mechanical chronograph movements. I think they actually use a Seiko. I'm not sure the exact movement that's inside, but it is a Seiko mecha quartz movement, which I've had in a couple watches before. And it also has 100-meter water resistant, which is a bonus when you have a chronograph. So, I thought it was a really great option for under $500 too, just to get a really cool chronograph that was stylish and.
Well, no, I think it's cool because it was inspired by racing, and that was the whole thing with the Speedmaster. So the Speedmaster was like, excuse me, the Speedmaster was the first watch that actually featured a tachymetric bezel actually on the or a tachymetric scale on the bezel. So I think the fact that the Yema was inspired by racing, it kind of ties into that whole like racing history legacy sort of thing. I like that option too.
Definitely. All right. So going into our similar options or alternatives to the Speedmaster, my pick was, I was going to say the Daytona, but listen, you can't even get a Daytona. So I'm just kind of knocking that one off my list, right? It's like the hardest Rolex to get a hold of. So I went with the Breitling Navy Timer, which the B01 chronograph.
Okay.
It comes in at 40, it's 43 millimeters. It's a little bit on the bigger side, but this watch has so much history, a lot of aeronautical history with the pilot, heritage that Breitling has. It's one of the most iconic. I would put this watch in a list of just, the top 20 iconic watches of all time. I think this watch is going to be in there. They've done so many iterations of it. To me, it's just a great looking watch. It can be a little busy to some, I agree, but I think just like the black and white dial tends to be a little bit more simple than some of the other colors that they do. Like I think they have like a black and red and blue, but the black and white is just kind of a little bit more simple. Again, just a lot of history. Breitling's a great brand. They've been around for a long time. And I think this would be a great alternative if you wanted an iconic chronograph that wasn't an Omega.
Yeah, no, actually, I think that is a really great option. It's something that I had looked at as well when I was doing the research for this, because it has such a cool history as far as with pilots and whatnot. And yeah, I think a lot of people for a long time kind of dismissed Breitling, right? Breitling went through that weird few years of everything was so big and gaudy and just over the top for no reason. And then a couple years ago, they got a new CEO. And so like now I feel like they're really embracing smaller, they're embracing kind of vintage inspired watches, but they still are very characteristically Breitling, right? Like, nothing's too small. I feel like they're definitely kind of finding their groove lately. And I'm really kind of appreciating, especially a lot of the newer releases that the brand's putting out.
I agree. I think their watches as of late, as like the last 2 years, I've been really, really interested in. And they're doing a lot of great things. I kind of hold them as like an underdog because they don't really get talked about. They're a big brand, don't get me wrong, but they don't get talked about. They kind of get looked over just between Rolex and Omega. I feel like that's just like the two comparisons everyone always wants to make, and then throw Tudor in the mix. But no, Breitling has a lot of history, and they are doing some really, really great things. What is it? The new Endurance Pro? Is it that I've been anxious to go and check those out. And we've got a new Breitling dealer here in Nashville that I have not yet been over to, that I need to try to make a trip over and see what they have in stock. But I'd like to check some of these watches out in person. But what is your similar option or your alternative?
El Primero. I feel like if you're looking for iconic chronographs, the El Primero. And what I love about the El Primero, first of all, like I just love the history behind the movement. I think it is really the most iconic chronograph movement of all time. So much so that, I mean, you've had other brands using it. The Speedmaster used it for a while. Even the Daytona used it. So I feel like it's just one of those movements that historically just has a lot of importance. But then when we look at aesthetics of watches, Zenith does so many different options with the El Primero. And I love that. I love that, like, you can literally find an El Primero that's fit to your style. If you don't like the 3-color subdials, you can do something a little bit funkier. You can do something a little bit more, under the radar. You can do larger sizes, smaller sizes. They have the different case like shapes now. I feel like they offer so much versus like with the Moonwatch. If you're looking for a Moonwatch, there's one watch that you're looking for. Yes, there are other Speedmasters, but and even then, a lot of them are going to have like a lot of those same styles and same functionalities. But I feel like the El Primero, and you can get something a little bit in every price point. Like you can start out something that's maybe $5,000-$6,000, and then you can also find those El Primeros that move up quite a bit. So really just kind of tailor it to what you're looking for. And I love that. I have kind of been itching to get an El Primero. I haven't spent a lot of wrist time with them, sadly. But I feel like it's a phenomenal watch and something that I would absolutely love to have, especially owning a Speedmaster. I think owning like another really iconic chronograph would be really cool in my collection.
Yeah, that's a great option. I thought about Zenith and I was like, Caitlin's going to go Zenith. So I needed to have a backup.
All right. So what was your backup?
My backup? Well, I just had the Daytona.
Okay. Yeah. Same.
And I was just like,
we just went basic with our backups.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the next watch we're going to break down is the Panerai Luminor. So let's try this rock, paper, scissors thing because I have no other options. Neither of us have a coin beside us. All right. So ready?
Yeah.
All right. 1, 2, 3, paper.
Rock.
All right.
Okay.
You get to go first again. I hope you don't pick mine because I have no plan B on either.
No,
of mine.
you said paper. I had rock. Paper goes over rock. You go first.
Did I say paper or did you say paper?
I said rock.
Oh,
you said paper.
Okay. Well, cool. All right. Well, that works for me. I've literally been up for like 5 hours and I can't figure out rock, paper, scissors. This is going to be a long day. All right. So my budget Luminor is going to be the G-Shock Frogman. Because hear me out. Panerai like has a big long line of like military inspired watches. Like, they made watches for the Italian Navy. The G-Shock Frogman is one of like the most American military watches that you get. It has like that same just bulky, overly utilitarian for no damn reason design. So I feel like it's a really great option. On top of that, you have all the extra functionality that the Panerai is going to give you. You have the silicone strap and that's just going to give you the extra durability. This is a watch that you can be up on and not have to worry about it. And I know very few people who are gentle with Panerais. I think Panerai is that one luxury watch brand because of the price point that everybody's okay with beating to hell. Like, I don't know very many people who baby their Panerais. And I don't know really why that is, because to me, like, if I was spending that much money, again, like, we're going to treat you nice. But yeah, I mean, 200-meter water resistance. It has like the time and tide data. You've got atomic timekeeping, solar power. I mean, I know a lot of you guys are very familiar with the Frogman, but I really wanted something that was going to be, first of all, military inspired because Panerai does have such a strong military history, but then just as durable as a Luminor.
Yeah, great option.
And these are about $750. So
perfect. I hadn't even thought about that watch. That's a really, really It's a really great alternative.
What was your budget Luminor?
So this was really tough because you did really good just because you had that kind of big bulky case shape. It's not necessarily a cushion shape, but it's similar and in its own kind of way. And I was trying to find something like that, something that had a really unique case design. And I came up with a brand that I have not really had a lot of experience with, but it's the Spinnaker, and it's the whole series. So they've got chronographs and they've got dive watches that have bezels, some that don't, but they have a few models that really do resemble the Panerai Luminor series, and they've even got some black cased ones. They all come in around $315 or under $375 for some of the other ones, but they're all under like $400. And again, it's not a brand that I've personally had a lot of experience with, but when I looked at them, I thought, okay, that really does remind me of a Panerai a lot. So they've got that cushion-shaped case, and it just reminded me a lot of the Panerai. I think that it's a great option if you want something that is kind of, I don't know that I'd put this into the homage category because they are kind of, besides the case, they don't really look like them a whole lot. I don't know. Some people might look at these and consider them an homage to the Panerai, which is not always a bad thing, especially when you're looking at a budget option for it. My backup would be the Hamilton Khaki Field. I know it's not a dive watch or anything like that. It did give me a lot of the kind of the Luminor Panerai vibes with just like the dial and especially I'm a huge fan of the white dial Panerais, and the white Khaki Field has that same colorway, and I just adore it with the like kind of patinaed lume inside and the black outer rims of the indexes, and it's fantastic. So besides the water resistance, I think that would be another great option. Doesn't really look like a Panerai in any way, shape, or form, but to me would be a good budget alternative if you're looking for that kind of military inspired watch with some of the similar colorways, at least for it.
Yeah.
But that one was like probably my hardest. That was probably the hardest one I had to find.
I agree. Well, that in the next category, the budget ones were the hardest. The next category was a hard one. Okay.
What's your alternative to the Panerai without kind of keeping to a affordable budget?
The Ploprof.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're just getting a Panerai, like you don't mind big watches, right? You want some attention. You want people to look at your wrist and know that you're wearing a watch. And what better watch says that than the Omega Ploprof? It is like, what are the dimensions on this thing? I haven't looked in a very long time. Now, the new ones are in titanium, which does help with the weight, thankfully. I still want one of the old stainless steel, 55 millimeters wide, but a lug to lug of 48 millimeters. So it is kind of practical and wearable. And again, a watch that you can do literally anything with. You can beat the hell up on it. It's going to be able to take it just fine. I love that they do like these colorful bezels with these. Like I'm looking right now at the orange bezel with the gray dial, and to me that's just very reminiscent of some of the Luminors where they do like a little pop of color on the bezel, but then still a gray or a very neutral dial. And I think again, I mean, if you're just wanting something that you can wear and it's going to be lightweight, like the thing about Panerai is they're heavy, but they still kind of wear okay. Like it's hard to explain. And even on a small wrist, like they wear okay, like not as weird as you think they would. And I feel that about the Ploprof. I feel a lot of people are very intimidated to put it on, but when you do put it on, especially the ones in titanium, they're okay. Like they're not really all that bad. And it's a watch. Same thing with the Luminor. It's a watch that you just have to love to be able to wear. It's not going to be your first watch. It's not going to be like your second watch in your collection. But it's a watch that after you've had a few, maybe you think to yourself, hell yeah, I'm going to try this. Yeah, that's my choice.
Well, I think a lot of credit has to go to, the designers of those watches because, that's the reason why they do wear so well on the wrist is because of the design and the way the lugs are shaped. And, they're big and they're heavy and they're huge, but then you put them on the wrist and you're like, this isn't so bad. And that just goes to show you I've worn smaller watches that wear worse than some of these big ones do. And it's all about design and how they make them fit on the wrist. So kudos to those brands. So my pick would be similar to yours, just something kind of big, loud, and bold. And I went with the Bell and Ross, the like the BR01, 03,
Oh, yeah.
05. You can take any of these. They've got this awesome sandwich dial, which Panerai does on the Luminors. Lots and lots and lots of options. I mean, I'm on their website now. I see 34 models in the 03, 24 in the BRS models that are the 39 millimeter. Just so many options that you can choose from, and they're just big. It's loud. It's a watch you see on someone's wrist, and it's this huge square. And so it's something you can spot pretty easily, like you do with the Panerais. And while this doesn't have a dive watch history necessarily, it's more of a pilot history with the instruments inside of the cockpit. But I think it's still kind of a tactical type watch. They look kind of like tool watches, just like Panerai does. They're a tool watch. It's something you want to wear. Like you said, you spend money and then you still just kind of want to wear this thing, kind of beating it up and roughing it up. I don't know what it is about them, but they just seem like they can handle just about anything you throw at it. Incredibly legible too, which is for the Panerai. I mean, it's one of the most legible watches in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
I've come into contact with many, and it's a watch that you can just see. I mean, the lume is incredible on those two. I'm not sure about the BR series on their lume. I'm sure it's pretty well. They've got a dial that's like, remember that one we talked about a while back, which was like the all lume dial. So I'm sure they're not too bad on the lume there. But yeah, I thought this was a great alternative to a Panerai if you just want something loud and bulky and tactical on the wrist.
Very cool. I think that's a great choice too. I like that one. Last category.
Yeah.
This is the hardest. I had such a hard time. Last category is going to be the Cartier Tank. Again, iconic watch. I feel like this is harder because this is a more dressy watch. The other ones we talked about are sporty. You and I, we got sport watches, right? Like we know our sports watches. Dress watches, not so much. But I felt like when we, talking about some of these watches, I felt like we did need to push ourselves a little bit and try something different and go with something a little dressy. So Cartier Tank. Let's rock, paper, scissors this one more time and see who gets to go first. All right. 1, 2, 3, scissors. Damn it.
Okay, so rock, paper, scissors.
Please don't pick my choices. I have no plan Bs.
Oh, no. Well, if we pick the same, we pick the same. So my under $1,000 option, alternative to the Cartier Tank, would be the Hamilton Bolton.
No!
Is that the one you picked? No.
Damn it.
Comes in, and the reason is so there's not a ton of watches that are kind of square rectangular cases under $1,000. This one comes in at $895. Obviously, Hamilton has a rich history. This watch has the Roman numeral indices, so it's a very similar vibe to the Tank, and just a great looking watch. I think the dimensions on it are like 34.5 by 38, so it wears really, really well on the wrist. And it's something that you don't want it to be loud. We're just talking about big watches that just kind of make us stand out. The Cartier Tank is the Cartier Tank is a very understated watch. When guys wear it, it's a smaller watch on the wrist. It's not something that's going to draw a lot of attention because almost the case shape is not going to really extend much beyond the strap, especially with the Tank. Well, this one does just a little bit. Obviously, it's a different watch than the Tank, but it does give the similar vibes. Wonderful blue hands. It's a mechanical watch. You just can't go wrong. For under $1,000, this would be my number one. Did you look at the Longines Dolce Vita, I think is the name of the watch?
No, I forgot about those, but I know that those are a great option too. But no, that Hamilton is super cool. It was a watch that I had no idea even existed until I started doing notes for this episode. Super cool. So in my desperate Googling while Kat was talking, I am going to go with, so Seiko does a line of rectangular dress watches as well that are solar powered. The one that I'm looking at right at this moment, because it was the first one that pulled up on the internet, is a gold tone. It's the SCP-896, but there are tons of options, and I feel like these have very Cartier Tank vibes. Very slim watches. I like that they're solar powered, so they're easy to wear. But yeah, it very, very similar in that aesthetic. But no, I think you kicked my ass with that Hamilton.
Well, I think those Seikos, I think that Jenny L, when we had her on the show, I think she had one of those that she was trying out because she, wanted to see what a tank would kind of feel like on her wrist, and she bought one of those to wear for a little while as a budget option just to see if she would even like it, which again is a really smart idea. Obviously, you don't want to go spend $1,000 on something like that, but maybe under $300, that's not a bad idea.
I agree. I totally agree. Okay, so let's look at your non-budget option. What do you have?
My non-budget.
If you're not buying a tank, I know you do. There's like really only one watch.
No, I think there's several. I have three. I have three options.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. So, all right. So I'm gonna go with if you were asking me right now if I couldn't go buy a tank, what else would I would spend my money on? There's really only two, and I personally would go with the JLC Reverso as my second option.
Oh, would
if I
you?
couldn't,
would
I
you?
would. I would.
Well, let me get to Googling. No, go ahead. Sorry.
Another just super iconic watch. There is so many options out there. I love this watch. We've got to see it in person, and it's just fantastic. One that I honestly like. I need to just kind of add to my wish list for the future because I really, really love this watch. It's just beautifully stunning. And, they come in, I don't know, over $4,500, I think. I don't know what the cheapest one is. They have gold versions and white gold versions and stainless steel. And I kind of like just the sporty stainless steel on the brown leather strap. I think it's just kind of the one I would go for. They have ones that are on bracelet. It's a classic designed watch that really just looks good on everyone. It's refined, it's smart, it's bold in its own way. But yeah, that would be my alternative. Sorry. Okay. But for what it's worth, there's other great options too.
Are there? Because
did you not have a backup? The Tetra,
Kat,
the Nomos Tetra.
I got to. If you could look at my notes, my first three categories are all pretty and organized, and there's lots of thoughts. And then it got late last night. Okay, and then on this next page, it just says tank. 2 scribbly lines, and that was it. I was hoping to win the rock, paper, scissors on this one. So I will, in my desperate Googling, I will go with the Baum and Mercier Hampton. Which I think is a cool option, actually, just because you still get an automatic movement. You still get that kind of rectangular case design that's so iconic with the Cartier. But you get these, these start at probably around $2,500. So, I think that it's a great kind of in between if you're not really set quite to spend, double that realistically and up on a Cartier, then this gives you a really nice choice. I know that I've seen these actually in person before. I know that there are tons of different dial colors. I just didn't think about it. And I kind of like this kind of spidery dial layout that these have. The way that the numerals are, it's something or the marker, excuse me. It's just really cool. It's different. I think that it's kind of a funky take on the whole idea of a tank.
Yeah, I think that's a great option. Another option I had on my list, which was the Hermes Cape Cod. Yeah. Comes on kind of a bracelet wraparound leather strap. When you look at the Cartier tank, it's a great watch brand, but it's also a fashion brand. It's big in the fashion world, and I think Hermes is another brand that would kind of stand out to a lot of women in general as being that kind of similar styled watch. JLC is great, but Hermes is known to be in the fashion world a little bit more. So, and then again, just the Nomos Tetra I think is a great option. A little more square than rectangle, but another really great watch that looks good on a leather strap to have on your wrist, and there's a couple sizes there too.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that is a great option, especially when you tie in the whole fashion aspect of it. So I think that's it. All right. Well, so we got through that. Thank you guys for listening to our butchered attempts at playing rock, paper, scissors and we're not even video chatting. We're just on the phone. We're just on the phone, y'all. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in. We're going to have some fun over on Instagram. If you guys do follow us on Instagram, we're going to post these in the stories over the next, excuse me. Over the next few days, we're going to post these in some stories and see who built the better collection. So I'm very curious because I was much more confident going into this than I am weaving this. So thank you guys for tuning in as always. Be sure to head over to our website, www.tennand2.com, to check out our show notes. And yeah, be sure you're following us along on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at 10 and 2 Media. And I think that's it.
All right. Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye, y'all.